So I'm Joanna Rolick, the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, and I pretty much know everybody around the table, and if I don't, welcome. We have some people who are joining us from the community at large, which is wonderful. The City of Lake Forest put it out, and I know that several of you shared it, so that we have invitees today who do not have businesses but are citizens who've been adversely impacted by the kinds of things we're talking about. But you know what? There's some wonderful information that's going to be shared with us today that we can take out to those who we know, and I appreciate that. And I wanted today to acknowledge, before I introduce our wonderful speaker, I wanted to acknowledge our sponsors for today's event. They're Lake Forest Bank and Trust. They are Amber's Traveling Massage, and we have Amber here today. Thank you so much. And then Blue Sky Video Productions, which is Bruce back there. Bruce is our guy. So we have been doing this, well, we've both been doing this for 27 years, Bruce. So any rate, so he's wonderful, but the great thing is that he records these events for us and we put them on our YouTube page. And I wanted to also call attention to our staff. You have Sue Casanda, who's our Member Services Manager, Sarah Lockhart, who handles all of our communications and the website, and Kirsten Casperson, who handles absolutely everything else. So when you call to the office, it's Kirsten who will answer for you. She is just the kind of person that I have always felt, and the Chamber has always felt, we can call whenever anything happens in our technology world. And she has set us up with our computers. She has taken care of the management of them, the protection of our data, which is mind-boggling amount. And also she is the one who gets in touch with me and says, what do you mean you have hundreds of thousands of emails sitting on your computer? But at any rate, I can't speak highly enough about her accessibility, her availability, and her knowledge. And so we're very, very glad to have Lori Tisinai today, and I'm going to ask her to give you a little background about her experience and what brings her to this point.
All right, hello, my name is Lori Tisinai, and I'm the owner of Computer Concepts. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is cybersecurity. When I first started in my business over, since 1999, that's a long time ago. I don't think I really want to do the math. You know, business really was different for me. We were just helping people set up computers, get them connected to the internet. You know, we had dial-up at the time when I first started my business. And things have obviously changed over time due to the threat landscape changing and due to the technology changing from time to time. So as what Joanna has said, I'm the owner of Computer Concepts. We do corporate training, so we teach you how to use the various programs that you use every day on your computer. And again, as things have changed over time, we're really helping people not only with their computers, but also with the protecting of the data that you have on your computers and the data that we have stored up in the cloud. So there's a lot of information out there today that we have, and we always want to protect not only our personal information, but also our customers' information. We want to make sure that something doesn't happen to that, because that can cause us reputational harm for our business. And we'll see some of those cases and some of those instances today. So the title of my presentation today is Navigating the Cyber Threat Landscape and its Strategies for Small Business Protection. Again, not only is this small business protection, this is really today your personal data, your business's data, your family's information, and you know, it goes up to the enterprise level, and we'll talk about that as well. So no matter what the enterprise is doing, you need to be doing that as an individual and most definitely as a small business. We have, as we've stated, we have more data today than we've had in the past many, many years. Our information is out there. How many of you know that your information is in the cloud? Or how many of you think that your information isn't up in the cloud? It's only on your computer. Okay, well that's good. Maybe I phrased it so no one really wanted to raise their hand. But our information today is everywhere, and knowing and understanding where your information is really important. Not only is it about our computer devices, we have all of these other connected devices on our network, right? We have Internet of Things, we have TVs, access points, routers, we have telephones. How many of you have an Amazon Alexa at your house? Or a Google? Someone talking to you, someone listening to you. Sometimes it's nice to have someone listen to you. not say anything. My husband is here, but yeah, he's here. So it's really important to understand where is your data and how can we protect it today. Again, there's so many different pieces of technology that we have, and we want to make sure that all of those pieces of technology are up to date, are patched, and are not, and hopefully don't have a vulnerability that could affect how our data can get compromised. There's so many different ways today. So again, there's so many different pieces. It's not up to date, but in 2020, it was estimated that there was going to be 31 billion connected devices to the internet worldwide. And now we're in 2024, going through a pandemic. I can only imagine what that actual statistic is today. So again, really today is about the evolution of the cyber threats. How many of you have virus and malware protection or virus protection on your computer? That's good. How many of you are not paying for your virus protection or malware protection on your computer? A couple of you, okay. I'm here today to tell you that malware and viruses are still a threat today, but that is minimal, and that's the minimum piece of protection in terms of our layered approach to cybersecurity that you want to have. So the evolution of cyber threats have really changed over the years. I remember when I first got started in technology, we were training a class, and the entire large pharmaceutical company in the area was completely shut down because someone had clicked a link and a virus was spread at that company. Like, no computer worked. The entire system for thousands of employees in Lake County were down. And back at the time, really that evolution at the time, the person that created that virus, might have been the I love you virus, was just to get the recognition amongst other threat actors that just wanted to say like, ha, I'm able to take down an entire company. It really wasn't about the financial gain. It was just about showing how good they were, how technical they were, that they were able to take down an entire company. Many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, you may remember there was another threat, and over in Europe, everything was shut down for several days. Does anyone remember this? Grocery stores, train stations, no one could buy anything. WannaCry? Yeah, the WannaCry. There's so many in my head right now that I'm thinking about. I can't remember them all, so thank you. Thank you, Tom. And again, in the beginning, it was more about the bragging rights, but now over time, this is really, it's not about Joe. I don't know, I always call someone Joe, living in his parents' basement in Evanston, and wearing a hoodie. That's not who this is today. I don't know why I pick on Evanston, but that's just been my go-to city. It's not this guy sitting there with a hoodie on and a mask. This is about nation states. This is about a building full of people that are hired by a government to go after our GDP here in the United States and in other thriving countries around the globe. This is not, everyone, I always hear, I'm too small, no one's gonna come after me. Let me tell you, they're coming after everybody, and if there's one thing that I convey to you today, it's really to really think about this in the back of your mind, that you do have something that they want. They want your information. They want your contacts. They want the credit score that you have. They want to be able to email other people so that they can continue conflicting other people in the same manner that you were just affected. How many people in here, you don't really have to raise your hand, but how many of you in here have maybe been a victim of a scam, a fraud, or some type of cyber incident? I mean, maybe, some, all, and again, you don't have to raise your hand, but it's scary out there, and you may actually be a victim, and you may not even know it today. So those are some of the other things that we're going to talk about. But again, this is really more about nation states. And so who are these threats? There's actually Revel. Have you guys heard of some of the hacking instances that have been in the news?
Lori?
Yeah, how many of you have heard about Lurie's Children's Hospital? Their entire system was taken offline for over a month. Could you survive as a small company today if you were not able to access any one of your computers? Imagine the phone numbers your contact information. You can't access it. You can't get it on your phone. You can't get it on your computer. You have to go back to paper. Are you prepared for that? Do you have a backup plan? I mean, these are some things to think about. So again, it's hacking collectives, right? There are organized crime gangs that are out there, really just out there going after some of those companies. Those are targeted attacks. They are going after our healthcare systems, the hospitals, the schools, our infrastructure. Some of those are definitely targeted, but you are targeted as well. Again, they don't care who you are. You're a number to them, and so it's about what you can do to protect yourself. But these are the various threat actors that are out there. And what's really crazy today, so again, back in the day, I really had to be a programmer. I really had to know how to go in and do the code. But today, most of the information, there's kits out there today that are available to purchase on the dark web. So let's say I leave and I'm no longer working for a company anymore, and now I want to go after that company. I feel, damaged by them. I can now go to something that's called the dark web, and have you all heard of the dark web before? Has anyone been on the dark web? Hopefully not. And if you have been, hopefully you've used the right tools. But all these things are available on the dark web as a service. And people can just go and buy a kit, and they can release that kit. And you can even partner with some other threat actors so that you don't even have to know how to do it, and you can just barter with them, buy things with Bitcoin, and buy these kits online on the dark web. So again, today, you don't have to be savvy to figure out how to go after somebody. You don't have to be savvy to go out to the dark web and buy someone's credentials. And today, really, most of the threats that are occurring today are because our usernames and our passwords are available for sale on the dark web for pennies on the dollar, that they can just buy hundreds of thousands of credentials that have been leaked, not necessarily by you, but by the trusted companies that you've done business with over time. And it's that information that is now shared on the dark web. And once it's there, there's no way to put that genie back in the bottle. The only thing that you can do is just try to stay one step ahead. So again, nation states, that's the biggest threat that we have. And then we have all these other different hacker groups that are going out there. And now it's really just anybody that wants to go, and they don't want to go to work anymore. They want to work part-time, and they're going to go and just buy some of these kits that they can get. Again, it's cheap. It's like $10, $15. And then you can go buy somebody to help you, deploy it, and then you split what you make. Makes me think I'm in the wrong job. So again, it's not that guy sitting in his parents' basement, sitting by himself doing this. This is a group of individuals sitting there all over the globe every day, just trying to wreak havoc on your life. So it's about protecting our digital borders. How many of you have used ChatGPT before? Okay, I actually used it. I have a subscription to it. I pay for it monthly. And I asked it to create me a picture of the United States defending our digital borders, and it created that image for me for today. I just wanted to share that. So for me, this is really about, again, when people say, oh, I'm too small to be affected, or no one's going to come after me, I'm telling you, together, we need to band together, and we need to educate our friends, our family. So whatever you do today, take away knowledge, take notes, and share this so that we can actually truly come together as a nation and protect our digital borders. Because the way that the cybercrime is growing today, it's going to start surpassing the gross national product, GDP of various countries, and it may be even surpassing our country. So how do they make their money? Again, buying and selling our harvested email addresses that have been compromised. Again, maybe not necessarily by you, but by the vendors that you've logged into and you've trusted with. So I don't even need to ask for a show of hands. I can almost guarantee you that you are all using same or similar passwords. Sparkle, and then you changed it to Sparkle 1, does not mean that you changed your password. Oh, but Lori, I changed it now to a capital S 1 with an asterisk at the end. Let me tell you, I'm no joke, I can almost guarantee you but that is happening to most everybody here. And so those credentials are on the dark web. I don't even need to give you the report that I'm going to be handing most of you today. And again, I will hand other ones to you afterwards. It's because our information is out there. If you don't think that your information has been compromised, it is only a matter of time. And it's all based upon our email address. And we'll talk about some password things. Identity theft. How many of you have your credit frozen? Everybody's hand in this room should be going up to freeze your credit. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So for those of you that don't know, it doesn't mean you can't use your credit card today if your credit is frozen. It just means that no one can open up an account in your name. And our information is out there. Experian had an incident several years ago, and it leaked millions of data records out onto the dark web. All of your personal information, your credit history, that's out there. Your social security information could be out there on the dark web. So you really want to take what we know is a possibility and try to limit and mitigate the risk that you have. Now today, the biggest thing that threat actors are doing, again, it's not about viruses and malware, they're going in and they're stealing your credentials. They're maybe sending you a phishing email, right? An email that is coming from something, maybe it's even coming from someone that you're doing business with. This just happened this past week to one of my customers. They received an email from somebody that they are trying a case against. They opened up an email. It was from that person. They sent them a file. It's asking them to log in to their Office 365 account, right, or their email to get it, so they're doing it. And it's a credential stealing website. They just entered in their username and their password, Sparkle1 with a star, and now that threat actor now has that email address and password, potentially a token if you were using MFA, and now they're able to continue to log into your email. And if you're reusing same and similar passwords, many other accounts that they have on you, or that they can find just by Googling your name. How many of you have ever Googled your name before? Googled your phone number, Googled your email address. Do it, see what's out there. You'll find out you're related to people you didn't even know about. You'll find people living at your address that you didn't know were there and part of your family. It's amazing what has been commingled out there about you. So again, they're making money by stealing these things. Sometimes they're even just the initial access broker. So again, things I hear every day. How many of you in here have an Apple computer? So a lot of times I hear Apple computers don't get viruses or malware. Tom, what do you think about that?
They are full of it.
Yeah, Tom and I are in the same industry. It's a myth. And they do get malware. They can be affected by different processes today. So that's not accurate. Or I don't need to pay for virus and malware protection. I'll be fine. I'm really careful at what I click on. I'm smarter. I don't click on bad links. Okay. My business is too small. They won't come after me. I don't have anything in the bank. No one wants anything from me. I hear these things all the time. Tom, do you hear these things too?
Yes, every day.
Every day. Every day. I don't have any money, so they're not going to get anything from me. But again, they're getting so much more. Yes?
What's the difference between the level of protection between free and paid malware and virus protection?
That's a great question. What's the difference between free and paid? Sometimes a lot of the free versions aren't offering you proactive protection. They'll scan your machine afterwards, or you may be paying for something, but you're not updating it properly. A lot of times people don't restart their computers, or they don't update the software because they're too nervous to click on an update. So there could be various differences between free and not free, or sometimes just not using anything at all. Yeah, advertisements, pop-ups. So, yes?
It often seems like the malware companies that you would pay or get seem to be the biggest culprits. They're the ones hawking you and filling your inbox with.
Oh, this is, what was your name again?
Chris.
Chris. So Chris asked a great question. Chris's question is, it seems like these virus malware protection companies, they're the ones that are consistently emailing me and filling up my inbox, telling me that I just paid $499 and they charged my credit card. And I'm getting these all day long. How many of you are getting these emails all day long? Or you just were charged something on your PayPal account or your Venmo account. Yeah, it's not actually coming from those companies necessarily. It's actually just coming from scammers that are, you're on an email list, your friend or family or business associate or vendor compromised your email address, and now you're just going to be bombarded potentially by that customer, by that person, that company's name, or just bombarded by emails. The trick to those, a lot of times, they're just phishing. They want you to call them, and they then are going to say, oh, well, we'll give you a refund. And then they say, oh, but where do you bank? And you tell them where you bank. And these people are very good. I want to let everybody know when people are like, oh, how could somebody be so naive about something like that? These people are trained. These are not, again, this is not some guy living in his basement. I mean, sometimes maybe it is, but I mean, these are people that are really trained and they're very good at what they do, and they're feeding you. And then they say, oh, well, we'll help you get that refund back, right? Everyone's a little, not too sure how to get into places and log in. Oh, well, we'll help you. We'll connect to your computer. They take you to a website. You enter in a code. You just let them open the front door to everything that you own on your computer. And now they're on your computer, and now they're going to help you log into your bank account. And little do you know that they're stealing your information on the backside of that. But virus and malware, guess what, cannot detect that, because it's not a virus or a malware that you allowed onto your computer. You allowed a legitimate piece of software to allow them to connect to you to help you. And now they're using a legitimate tool and using it for something nefarious in the back end. This is then leading me into my next slide. Oh, I'm very good at this. These are the threat insights that you should know. These are based on real trends and threats that are impacting businesses just like you. Some of this information that I'm sharing with you is a combination of reports and information that I've received from the Verizon Threat Report that is created every year that enterprise companies use and small businesses use, and people like Tom and myself use to educate ourselves, and Huntress, which is one of my favorite vendors to work with. So in this report, this Verizon data breach report, we can only determine what may happen this year, but things that have happened in the past is that cyber criminals are not using viruses and malware to gain access to your information today. They are using social engineering, like credential stealing websites, and legitimate code from software that you actually have installed on your computer that you haven't updated, and it contains a vulnerability, and then that vulnerability can allow them to connect automatically to your computer and to start taking some of those credentials and information that you have. Joanna.
Every time you purchase something on a site and they say to you, make it easy next time by leaving your credit card information here, do we say no and do we not do it?
I think it depends on the site that you're going to. I think it depends on the EULA of the credit card that you are using, because today not all fraud or charges may be reversed. So you want to, read the EULA from your credit card information. And again, you may want to determine where that site is. I will tell you, I do leave my information there, but you can also use something called privacy cards if you're worried about your information. So write down privacy cards. That's a great tip for you today. So privacy cards is a website where it will give you different credit card numbers to use online for different sites, so that if one of those sites does compromise your information, your main card has not been compromised. Because we've all been, have we all been through that, where your credit card has been used to buy something different? So that's one way that you can combat that. Tom?
Does it store something on your computer when you save it?
Well, that's different. I took her question to be, did it save it at the website? And then Tom's also brought up, well, another way that it could be saving it is your different web browsers that you use also may want to save your credit card information. And usually when you're saving it in the web browsers, that may not necessarily be the website. And usually within the web browsers, they may save or encrypt the data that's there, but you still, in order to use that again, you would need to enter in your 3-digit code or the 4-digit CVV code. Cyber criminals are coming for your data, and they're using more types of attacks against your organization. And again, it's just not virus and malware today. It is actually a very small piece of how they're gaining access to your data. Again, it may not actually be on your computer, it's in the cloud. Your data's in the cloud. How many of you use a Microsoft domain, a paid, like branded email address? Or maybe a Google Workspace email? So it's your email, your name at yourdomain.com. All right? So those are cloud-based, and at least if you have a paid domain, you have the ability to add additional security onto that today. If you are using a free email account at iCloud, at Gmail, at Comcast, at Yahoo, those are free. You are the product, and there's not much additional security that you can add into those emails except what that particular email provider is giving you. So there's no additional third-party tools that you can utilize. And again, people always say, well, I turn my computer off at night, so I'm safe. Not really. Our data really is up in the cloud today, and you need to know where your data is and who potentially has access to it, and how can you get a notification if somebody other than you is accessing that information. So again, here, 50% of all social engineering incidents in 2022 use something called pre-texting. Not pre-texting like my cell phone, I'm not SMSing you. These are all things social engineering led to more information being available, and then threat actors then taking that data and then going after you or your business to commit the cyber incident. Notice I'm also using the words cyber incident. I'm not using the word breach. Breach is a bad word today. Do not use the word breach. Do not use the word hacked. You had a cyber incident. You received a notification. You have a cyber incident. Never a breach until you know it's a breach, and then you still never call it a breach, and you never email the word breach to anybody unless it's your attorney, and we'll talk about that. So we have your data, pay us. Has anyone here been a victim of ransomware where all of your data is encrypted? I think the statistic a couple years ago was every 43 seconds somebody's being ransomed, your data's being encrypted. What does this mean? It means that you've clicked on something, or someone has infiltrated your network or environment in some way, and they have now releasing something that is not a virus or malware. It is an encryption tool. It's to help encrypt your data, keep it protected. But the threat actors are using it for not good. It's so that you actually can't get to your information. And any drive that you have plugged in, any connected drive, folder, everything is blocked. You can't open anything. So again, going back, I don't know what happened to Lori's Children's Hospital, but I can tell you that their computers were all off for over a month. So that's tough. Again, they are doing this because they want to get your money. They want you to pay. And let's say you don't pay, you're never going to get your data back unless you have a very good backup system. Syncing to the cloud is not a backup, so that's something to consider. So all breaches that are called ransomware, again, your data could be encrypted. You may need to pay in order to get that data back, or you can restore from a backup. But what's worse is that just the ransomware isn't bad enough and you not having access to your data, but now you don't know what data they have of yours, and now it's for sale on the dark web, all of the data, all of your customer information. And I always hear every day, well, I only have the first name and last name of people. That's not really that important. Actually, first name, last name, phone number, these are all considered PII. This is all, private information that should not be available to somebody else. So they're getting us in more than one ways. The threats come from outside the company that you work on, right? So it's coming from those external actors, financial motivation. 100%, this is all about the money. By 2025, I read a statistic from one of my other vendors. Is that next year? Yes, it is next year, in 2025. They predict that the cyber crime monetary value of what will be stolen from people will be a $10 trillion a year business. 10 trillion, not billion, trillion. This is growing, and it's growing exponentially. Again, because it's easier and easier for someone with no cyber skills to start gaining access to your data. Again, this is some of the reports from Verizon. Again, this is the report that enterprise companies look at, smaller businesses look at. In years past, there was always a differentiator between an enterprise company and a small business. This is the type of threats that we saw attacking, the big companies around the globe, the ones that you hear about in the news. I'm here to tell you today that changed this year or last year. In this report, the threat actors are using the same tactics across the board. So it doesn't matter if you're a big business or a little business or an individual, they're coming after us. So again, this is why I'm going back to this. Let's protect our digital borders. Let's be stronger together and more educated about what we can do. Some things maybe internally, right? Maybe you have someone that doesn't like you. They got let go of your company. They still have credentials. They may go in and release some information, or they may accidentally do something. But all in all, almost 100% of the time, they are driven by financial means. They want money. Again, $10 trillion by next year. So again, that was the data breach report. Again, just everything is up. Most of these are occurring by social engineering and, again, just coming in from the outside. Again, it's not necessarily using viruses and malware. They don't need to rely on malware anymore. If I'm a threat actor today, I don't want to use a virus or a malware, because you want to know why? Most people's hands in here did raise their hands, right? They are now using these tactics where if they use malware or viruses, they're going to use it and get rid of that way. And now they're living on your machine and living and hiding and masquerading in the background of your legitimate programs. And so you need more in order to actually analyze what's going on. 56% of the incidents were malware-free, meaning there was no malicious software on a computer that caused some of these things to happen. I will tell you, I've had an incident where someone has emailed me, hey, I'm on the phone with Apple, and they're not able to fix my problem. And whatever they said, I said, oh no, they are not on the phone with Apple. So I got off my phone call immediately. I connected over to their computer. I am now connected to their computer, and I can see 2 instances of other software that is allowing someone else to control their machine. 2. I see the mouse moving. Now I'm in there trying to actually fight these people off. Like literally, it's like a fight to cancel that other software from running that the owner of that computer allowed them to install. She installed it. They allowed it to be installed on their system. They then logged into their bank account. There was no malicious software there. Virus and malware protection can't help you with that. That was social engineering. They Googled the wrong number. Maybe they believed a phone call that came in that Apple was calling you. But these threat actors have refined the art of evading software, and they're coming into your networks much easier. So again, we now actually call things endpoint protection. So besides just virus and malware protection, this is just one little piece. This is one little layer. There's so much more to cybersecurity, which I'll talk about very briefly coming up. But here, it's about really looking at malicious behavior. So again, I had a customer a couple weeks ago, not the same customer that I just talked about, but another customer that they called a phone number because they saw a charge on their credit card, and they Googled the phone number for that support. They were talking to Steve from Norton. It was not Steve from Norton, just like it wasn't Jake from State Farm. So he called the number, they called the number, the threat actor connected to their machine. 17 minutes later, we get a phone call saying, hey, my internet has stopped working on my computer. You need to fix this. We're trying to determine what the heck is going on. Like why? Like we're looking at lots of different things. And then I look in my email and I see that their computer has been isolated from their entire network because they allowed a threat actor onto their machine. Our threat hunting software, which is not virus or malware detection, this is this threat hunting, it was analyzing, it saw that it was a legitimate piece of software that was installed, and then they realized that that software was then starting to do things it shouldn't be allowed to do on a computer. So it was doing things in the background like stealing credentials out of the browser and stealing information and downloading data in the back end that user had no idea, but this software stopped it from occurring. we were able to block that threat from happening. When I called that business owner and I said, I just wanted to let you know we determined what was wrong. You had allowed a threat actor onto your machine. Oh, no, I did not do that. Yes, you did. Here's the link that you went to. Here's what was downloaded. And here's what the 35 different pieces, or these persistent footholds, that's like a new word as well, persistent foothold, or malicious behavior that was happening. Again, not a virus or malware, but legitimate pieces of software trying to do things that it shouldn't be doing. Huntress is the piece of software that we use. Their CEO came from the NSA and our military, and he's now created this piece of software to help, right? It uses AI, and then it also uses live people that are sitting there, literally analyzing code. Let me tell you, I don't want to analyze code. So when people call me and say, Lori, can you please look at my machine? I clicked a link. Can you look at it? And I say, I can't look at hundreds of lines of code to determine what is real and what is not real. We need to turn to another piece of software to help us do that. We then manage it. We talk about what we find and what we see. But here was a vulnerability of a piece of software, and Kyle said, I can't sugarcoat this. This is, swear word, is bad, said Huntress CEO, Kyle. So, it's bad what they can do. Again, these are the detections. So a lot of times when you say, is it maybe me? It could be an inside person today clicking a link, not realizing that that email did not come from PayPal because they didn't look at the email address. Right? I have people forwarding me emails. Is this real? Well, I'm getting to the point to say, I can't always tell if something is real or not real. We need to start utilizing some of these tools that help you filter this email, because unless I'm actually truly seeing it and analyzing it, I can't just always look and say, oh yes, that's fake. Because again, it's not malware driven, it's persistent footholds, other ways that they're coming in and detecting this behavior. So again, who's these attackers? Just bad people, right? It's, again, this living off the land. They're using these native tools that are in your computers. This slide information is actually from another vendor called Blackpoint Cyber. And I was just at a cybersecurity event for one of the largest for people in our industry. And they said that the first 3 months of 2024, they saw this particular company that analyzes all those logs that I don't want to look at. 56% of all incident responses did not involve endpoint detection response. So this was other tools that are finding these type of pieces. How many of you have heard of something called business email compromise? Okay, I can tell you stories where someone has received an email. This happened during COVID. They received an email from a company that they're doing business with. Hey, it's during COVID. We're not going to be in the office, so instead of mailing us the check, wire the money here instead. It's COVID. We're not in our office. The email came from an email. Company name, legitimate stationery, names were all the same, but there was a slight difference. The domain was a .co, not a .com. The person sent over $500,000. $500,000 went over. They're wondering why the work hasn't started a month later. Gets another email. Hey, by the way, we need that final payment of $100,000. Send it here. Sent another $100,000. What was lacking in that? Can anyone tell me? Verification. Well, you can't say smarts because it looked just like it, right? Came from the person's email address. It was just social engineering. And sometimes you have to have other things, not technology, but processes in place. How many of you are getting emails maybe at your company saying, hey, this is Susie. I need to change where I'm getting my direct deposit. Can you please send it to this bank now instead? And it has Susie's first name and last name in the title. It's signed by them. It looks like it's them. It looks like their information. Maybe even contains their phone number. Because again, that's all information that they can get on the internet. And if you don't have a process in place, you're not going to be able to stop that. Because a lot of times the threat actors are using fake Gmail accounts, maybe a domain that looks just like yours, but it's a different letter or a different number that's different. And if you do that without asking a question or picking up the phone, there's going to be an incident that you're going to then need to rectify. So a lot of people may ask, what happened to that guy that sent the 500,000 and then the 100,000? Did he get his money back? No. Because it's not covered by a bank for you to wire money to the wrong account and to figure it out a month later. So it was that person's lack of awareness or process to call and to verify. There was another incident like a month ago in Singapore where a woman for I think a very well-known company that I don't know about right now, but that company, she was in a Zoom call with the CFO or the CEO of the company. And he said to her, hey, by the way, let's have you transfer this money, blah, 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 a Zoom call, video to video, over to this account, $25 million was transferred. Guess what? That was an AI-generated video. Oh my God. Oh. And there wasn't a process in place to verify that. There wasn't another control other than a conversation. And therefore, that company lost $25 million. I don't know if she still has her job, right? And I don't know if that was you, if you would be in business the next day. So it may not be 25 million, but how would you feel if you lost $5,000? How would you feel if you lost $10,000? How many of you have cyber security insurance for your business today? It's a separate rider. It's not included in your general liability. Reach out to me for that. I can hook you up with a company that all they do is cybersecurity insurance. They'll analyze what you do for a living, and they'll tell you what you should have for cybersecurity insurance. For those of you that think that you're smarter than these bad guys and that a cyber incident will not happen to you, I'm here to tell you today, please don't take that approach. Please really be about defending our digital borders. So this business email compromises, they gain access through, guess what? Because we're all still reusing the same and similar passwords that are out there on the dark web. I will tell people today, or I can tell people a year ago, hey, this password is known. Yes, I know you added a star, star, star at the end, so now you think it's not going to be compromised. But I'm telling you, they use tools, automated tools, to start logging into your accounts. They figure out that they've got one. Maybe they logged into your Netflix account. Oh, I don't care about Netflix, Lori. I don't care if someone else is watching a video that I don't care about, or I don't care if they log into my Starbucks account. Every account matters. Every piece of information that they can find out about you matters. So they use this for targeted attacks, and then they continue this over and over again. A new word I want you guys to become familiar with today is something called living off the land, L-A-N-D, living off the land. It's not about viruses and malware today. It is about living off the land. Without getting super technical, because no one wants to hear me say technical things, it is using binaries. It's using the software, again, that you have on your machine. That is a legitimate piece of software, and they're using some of the software that a lot of different programs utilize in the back end, and they're utilizing that to gain access to your machine and flying underneath the radar. Again, it's called living off the land. They establish email rules. So sometimes when people say, oh, someone was in my email, people are getting weird emails from me. We first look to see if it actually is from you or someone just impersonating you. And then if we determine it is actually yours, then we need to log into that email account that's online and determine if they set up a forward. Did they set up some rule so that you're not actually getting your emails? Someone else is getting it. Many times when people's Facebook accounts or social media accounts get compromised, I'm like, not only is your social media account compromised, your email most likely is compromised as well, and they're in your email, reading your emails and forwarding things and deleting things on you, and you don't even know it. So I said it's usually much bigger than what you think it is. So again, business email compromise, password spraying, token harvests, brute force, dark web credentials. Again, this is how they're gaining access, and it's scary what's happening. So what's at stake? Impersonating you, right? Someone now takes over your Facebook account or your social media account, and now they're calling people. I just had one person on Facebook She lives in Libertyville. I went to high school with her. And I said, I emailed her brother-in-law. I said, did she really get Bitcoin certified? Like, I'm just seeing weird posts. Like this now person has graduated from my class, and I'm helping them make all this money. And they're like, no, her account was hacked. So now they've impersonated her. They're going to keep trying to gain access. Imagine if you're a nonprofit, and your nonprofit Facebook page was taken over. And now all of a sudden, they're asking for money for your nonprofit that you've worked so hard for, and now those threat actors are in your account and taking your money that you're trying to use for your nonprofit. Always look at the emails, and this is the most important thing here. And I know for sure this is at Microsoft. I'm not sure if the EULA is at other email things or other email EULAs, but now Microsoft, if you have a business email tenant at Microsoft, they are letting you know that Microsoft is not liable for any loss that you may incur as a result of someone else using your password or account, either with or without your knowledge. However, you could be liable for losses incurred by Microsoft or another party due to someone else using your account or password. So things are starting to change. You are going to be held accountable, and your business is going to be held accountable if you are not taking cybersecurity just a little bit more seriously. Start really thinking that this may happen to us. You know, this could be here. One of the best things that you can do to protect yourself, how many of you are doing employee awareness training for cybersecurity? Everybody's hand should be up. You're here today. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, this is part of it though, is educating your staff, educating yourself. There's lots of videos that you can watch. You can Google things on YouTube. Reach out to me. We have a platform where we can email you training, where people just watch a quick 2-3 minute little video once a month, and that helps. And you know what? Your cybersecurity carrier is going to start requiring that you start going through some training. Email security tools. Email filters should be on. We can't block everything, right? We can't block every email address that's coming to you from Gmail or Google if it's not a business domain, especially if you're dealing with consumers. We all have a free email account out there. But having filters in place, being educated about it, continuous monitoring. So some of my clients know that I'm not monitoring, right? I'm not reading your emails, but we're looking when you have a paid account, a private domain, we're getting alerts for if someone is logging in from another part of the world, not the United States, using your credentials. And if it's a failed attempt or if they actually got in. So one of the things, how many of you have heard of multi-factor authentication? How many of you are using multi-factor authentication? How many of you are using it on everything? Well, we try to use it on as much as we can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes the site doesn't allow it for you. But you want to start using it because it will help mitigate the risk that still can be compromised, but at least it's helped mitigating some of the risk that you have out there. So again, impersonating you. How many of you have ever received an email saying, hey, this is Joanna, actually. I'm going to use Joanna as an example. This is not a real example, though. And maybe her staff is saying, hey, I'm in a meeting, because she's always in a meeting. I'm in a meeting, but I need you to do me a favor. Has anyone heard of an email such as this before? And yeah.
Involve gift cards?
It involves gift cards, yes. So you're, hey, can you please go to Walgreens? I need to give this gift card to so-and-so. Scratch it off, send it to me. They didn't look at who the email was really from. They didn't look at the email address. There was an urgency to it. Can't block those. That's not a virus. That's not malware. That's social engineering. There's certain things that email filters are starting to pick up, but I definitely recommend a paid version for email, not a free email account, so that you can have some of these third-party tools implemented on your behalf.
A few months ago, I made a great effort to try to get rid of all my junk mail, so I unsubscribed and subscribed.
Chris tried getting his inbox down to inbox zero. I used to do training on inbox zero. I did one here for the chamber. I used to do so many fun things about technology. Now today, I'm telling you about all these things that can affect your business. So he went and he unsubscribed to get better with the influx of emails. Sometimes when you unsubscribe from some emails that are not legitimate, you're just letting them know that is a valid email and that you're going to get more. So was it a free email account or a paid?
I would get hundreds in my
but it was like your Gmail account, Yahoo account. Okay, so if you have a free email account, there's another really great tool. It's called unroll.me. Unroll.me. This does not work for a business account. This works for your Apple, Yahoo, give me another example here, Hotmail, Gmail type accounts. And you have to enroll, you have to subscribe. You are the product, so it is free. But it allows you to basically say, stop this email from coming into my inbox. You're not sending an email back to whoever sent it to you. You're controlling it through this third-party tool that gets added into your email account, like at the server level. And you can either keep it in your inbox, it filters it, or you can get something called a roll-up. It's a great tool. When I see people's inboxes on these free email accounts that have 30,000 emails unread, 100,000 emails unread, I tell them, just stop, just start over, get a new email. No, I'm kidding, no. But we go through a tool like this to at least curb it, because I tell them, you're not reading the emails. You're not missing out. You don't have FOMO. You're not gonna miss out on that email or that sale. If you really need it, you'll go to the website and you'll feel so much better not having so much mail in your system.
Is it a proper thing to do to block the sender, or is that sending them a message too?
So the question is, can I block a sender? When you're blocking a sender through Outlook itself, through the program, and you have a private domain, you're blocking it on your computer system. It's still coming into your inbox, but it's blocking it so that you're not seeing it in your actual inbox. So it's a little bit different. So with private domains, a Google Workspace or a Microsoft tenant, we actually use email filters to help you block and stop some of this email from coming in. It doesn't help subscriptions, so to speak. That's a different tool. But at least it will stop the mail that is really, truly fake from coming in. Again, phishing as a service timeline, things have changed. Life was so much easier back in 2005, 2006. But now today, they're very sophisticated on how they're getting to you, how they're harvesting your information. Again, what can you do? Your number one takeaway? Be vigilant about these phishing attempts. Practice good password hygiene. Sparkle 1 is not good password hygiene. Use MFA, use that multi-factor authentication. And again, if you're seeing all of a sudden an influx of a lot of different emails coming in, sometimes that can be a sign that you have had maybe a credit card compromise. I mean, there's lots of different things that occur today, and I've been doing this for so long, I see it. A lot of times we don't know, we get emails from companies that they look real, right? A lot of times people will forward me emails, and I think to myself, how can you think this is real? But it is because we are just so inundated that it's hard. We are so overwhelmed with the amount of emails that we get today that things happen. Some critical alerts. Something that happened, I've had 2 cyber incidents for my customers in the last 24 hours. One happened this morning before coming here. I received an email alert from a tool that we utilize that said, hey, this customer just opened up a file in Korea. And I thought, wow. I invited them for lunch today and they had a meeting in Lake Forest. So I don't think that they're in Korea. So let me notify them and ask them, who did you send this file to? Are they maybe in Korea? Let's analyze this. Just because I'm getting this alert doesn't mean that something bad is happening. It just means we need to look at this and we need to research this. Maybe somebody was using a VPN that said that they were in Korea. Maybe they wanted to watch a Korean TV show that was only available in Korea. Whatever it may be. That was not the case. The client, actually they're not in Lake Forest, but the client emailed, I said, well, who had access to this file? When was this done? This file was emailed to opposing counsel, once again. Opposing counsel, we don't know if maybe they were using a VPN. Did they forward that on to somebody else? Is their email compromised? And the only reason why we know this is because an email link was sent versus attaching a document. Like a paperclip, it was too big, so they couldn't send the document, so they sent it as a link. And that means that anyone that had access to that link had access and the ability to see that information that was in that file. That was confidential information. My client didn't have a compromise. The person that they sent it to had the compromise. So I will be dealing with that. But these are the type of alerts. Do you know if you're going to have a compromise or if something's happening to your data? Then literally 5 minutes after that, maybe 10, maybe an hour, said client, name redacted, and hi, I blocked out their name and I blocked out their email. But again, this could be you too. They then get an email that says, hey, your Dropbox account, there's a suspicious login from China. So now they're already on heightened alert, right? And now they're seeing this. Oh my gosh, do I need to log into my account? And people will click the links because they're overwhelmed with this information. And now they've just supplied their credentials. That did not happen. I said, no, please look at who the email is from. Dropbox.support@online-account.info. That's not Dropbox. See who it's sent to. Who is it really from? Sometimes you can't tell. Sometimes they spoof the name or copy the name, make it look the same. So you just really have to be vigilant. Again, we talked about cyber attacks, Lurie's Children's Hospital. Again, can your business be down a month and not have access to your company information? So the phishing tank, this was not the MGM recent hack. This was a couple years ago. Everyone's like, oh, I'm updating my computers. I'm up to date. I've got all this cybersecurity involved. This casino was hacked, and they were down and they lost money because there was a thermometer, an IoT, a smart device. These smart devices are dumb, by the way. A smart device, the threat actors gained access into entry into the whole network of this casino based upon a little dumb device that was managing the temperature of the fish tank. So I'm here today to tell you it's not always about clicking a link or a virus or a malware. They're using this information and they're taking the data. Do you remember the city of Atlanta was down, right? They had to pay the ransomware. They asked for $52,000. The city paid almost $3 million. And then another $10 million. Guess what? Don't pay these threat actors. When you're paying these threat actors, guess who you're actually paying? You're paying the terrorists that are around the globe. You're paying cyber criminals, and they're going to continue to utilize your data and your information over and over again. Even if you pay, they still have your data, and they're going to use it against you. Syncing is not a backup. Again, making sure that you know where your data is, making sure that you actually have a good backup. A backup is not syncing to the cloud. Making sure that you understand where your data is and is it backed up. I've actually had multiple clients actually lose access to their iCloud account. Apple will not get that back for you. You need to make sure that if you want to get your data back in case your phone is lost or stolen, they take it at gunpoint, they drug you, they get your 4-digit code, to get in, or your 6-digit code or whatever to get in. Now they have your phone, and especially if you have all of your passwords saved in notes or in your contacts, let me tell you, they now just have everything. And they've lost all their pictures for the last 20 years. They didn't have a backup. They didn't really get or understand what a cloud sync was, which is not truly a backup. I received this email last night, like at 10 o'clock. Name redacted, or insert your name here, right? This was literally verbatim. So-and-so had a click incident from a phish attempt. Basically, they tried to open the document. It was shared from someone that they work with. When you have time, are you able to do a quick peek and see if it's just a virus or something else lurking there? I'm telling you, I can't just quickly look at something and say, oh yeah, you're fine. I don't know what you clicked on. I don't know what was in that email. I don't know what malicious file list download could have been done. And I don't know what credentials you typed in. People tell me that they don't type things in, and we send out phishing campaigns to our customers that are aware of it. And we have reports, you get your name on a list, and we say, oh, you did enter in your credentials, you did fall victim to this. This happens all the time. There's also a tool out there called the Red Line Stealer, and this will actually, the threat actors will use it. It's very simple to run, and they'll grab your credentials from your computer. Here's code. This is what really happens in the background. I'm not a coder. I really can't tell you which code is malicious either, but I'm here to tell you that the threat actors know, and this is what is really happening in the background of your computer. We see the WYSIWYG. Does anyone know what WYSIWYG stands for? Yeah, what you see is what you get. So when we see the pretty screens, we see the icons and the Word documents and the Excel, in the background, it's this code, and this is the code, this is the lines of code that we use Huntress for to layer on top of our virus and AV protection, because we still need that. Again, it's this layered approach. There's a whole list here. But again, you can do training, there's threat hunting, making sure you have a solid backup. We talked about multi-factor authentication. Even a text message today that's really not multi-factor, but a text message is still better than nothing. I will tell you, I have had people lose $100,000, actually more than $100,000. They compromised, I think it was like I can't tell you how sometimes these events actually take place. It was a new client that was referred to me. It was during the pandemic, and person lost over $100,000 being traded out of their 401k account or their retirement account, okay? Their cell phone number, again, reuse of passwords here, this is the same story. The threat actor called Verizon or AT&T and said, hi, I lost my phone. That phone I don't have anymore, but I have a new phone. Can you please transfer my phone number? Sure, can you authenticate? Sure, let me authenticate who I am. They have the information, they logged in online because they got the credentials from the dark web. And now that person's phone, I have my phone, it's now dead. It's not working because it's now bricked. My phone number has now been transferred to the threat actor's phone. And I used the same or similar email password for my email that I used to log into my AT&T account. So now they're in my email. And now guess what they're doing? They now have access to everything about my life. They have now, it's not my life, but that person's life. They have access to everything. They have access, they know where I'm banking. Because I have a folder that says banking, financial. They see where it is. So guess what they do? They go to chase.com. They go to Lake Forest Bank and Trust. And they log in with your credentials. Oh, we can't get in, because that is a little different. Well, I forgot my password. Well, we'll send a code to your phone. Well, guess what happened to that threat actor? They got the text message. The person that lost their phone didn't get that text message. And now they're logging in, and now comes in what happens. It took me, I don't know, Bill, how many hours was I up that night? Yeah, like a couple days, up until 2, 3 in the morning, trying to stop it from occurring. Because once one of these approaches and happens, you have to act fast. How many of you use a password manager? How many of you don't even know if you use a password manager, and you might use a password manager? How many of you have an iPhone? I can at least tell you where to go. On your iPhone, do me a favor. Because you all think, I didn't really see a lot of hands go up for password manager. And a lot of people say, I don't save my passwords anywhere. Do me a favor. Go into settings of your phone. It's a gear icon. Can everyone find settings? If you can't find settings, take your finger in between any of the icons, drag down, and search for the word settings. And you're going to scroll down to the word passwords. It's probably down about 4 or 5 inches. Does anyone see security recommendations up at the top? Does anyone have more than 100 recommendations? You don't have to raise your hand. Does anyone have? If you have 0, well, you may have 0. So it's going to depend on a lot of different settings. It may depend on if you have keychain turned on in another area for iCloud. You may have a different default browser. You may have said not to save passwords. Or down below, you'll also see your saved passwords, right? So you'll have security recommendations potentially. And then down below, you may see usernames and passwords. Again, those may not be current. This is just one area. But this is on your phone. Now you have a computer. If you have a PC, you're either using Edge, Firefox, Chrome, and guess what? You're logged into those browsers, and all of those browsers are also storing passwords. I will tell you that every top cybersecurity expert, I'm just a conveyor of that information, right? But I am a thought leader, though, still in our space, and I'm a great educator about this. They will all tell you, do not save your passwords in these browsers. It is one thing to save things in a password manager, right? That may be in your browser, but it's a password manager within the browser. But when you store your information in those browsers, that red line stealer easily can grab stuff. I'm a threat actor on your computer. So the threat actors, when they steal these credentials, you're not seeing them export them. They're using code in the background that can take this information, or there's key loggers on your machine that are just sending your passwords that you're typing right back home to them. They don't even need to be connected to your computer. It's crazy. If you do use a password manager, people will always say, well, which one do you recommend? I recommend the one that you use correctly and that has been configured properly. So many times I will, look at someone's phone, they're like, oh, I'm using a password manager. And we open it up and they're using all the same and similar passwords. But they think because it's stored in that password manager that it's safe. It's not safe because it's in there. It's in a password manager so that you don't have to remember it. You will never remember minimum of 80 different sites that we log into on a daily or monthly basis. If you use a password manager, make sure that it's configured properly. We do resell a password manager. I will not tell you the name of the password manager because when people go and they set things up on their own, guess what? They don't configure it properly, and then it doesn't work. And then they say, well, Lori recommended this, and it just doesn't work. They're not trained on how to use it, and you don't have security built in. You're still using Sparkle 1 to log into all of your passwords, and guess what? If a threat actor tries to log into that password manager, they now have everything that you own, especially if you don't have things configured properly in the back end. Patch management. How many of you are restarting your computer on a weekly basis? How many of you know where to go and get the updates for your computer and actually install them? Or you just think it does it automatically. It does not. It does not install every update automatically. And sometimes you don't want to install an update because it may break something, right? So having some controlled things. There's something out there called CVE, C Charlie, V Victor, E Edward, .org. There are vulnerabilities for every piece of software that we have. That's why a lot of times we're doing these patching. CVE.org will tell you if there's a vulnerability in a piece of software. How many of you have ever gone out to even think that a piece of software that you have on your computer has a vulnerability? Do you even care? You may not know, but you need to start caring. We do vulnerability scans. We look at people's machines. We see what vulnerabilities are out there. And we say, hey, we need to connect to your machine. This is not a Windows update. This is not an Apple update. Zoom actually needs to be updated. Your Chrome needs to be updated. And people just don't want to update it because they don't want to break something. But I'm here to tell you today, it's okay to break something. They'll fix it. It may not be immediate, but you want to install those updates because today you're patching things that have a vulnerability that can allow a threat actor to live off the land on your system. And even today, even if you do patching and vulnerability management, it still may not be enough, right? Again, we're always just mitigating risk. And if you have anyone tell you that you will be 100% safe, I would actually think differently about doing business with them, personally. We always recommend putting in extra levels of protection for email encryption. Again, I already asked you guys about cybersecurity insurance. If you don't have it, definitely reach out to me. I don't sell it, but I can recommend a company that they just want to sell you the cybersecurity insurance, making sure that your type of business is covered the way that it needs to be. If you had an incident, would you know? Who would you call? Do you call your attorney? Do you even know if it's an incident? What consists of an incident? Do you have a plan? What if you were Lori's children and tomorrow you walked in and none of your computers worked? You couldn't access any of your data. It's not a matter about your computer won't turn on. I'm talking about all the data that you have. Your systems are corrupted. You don't know where this is coming from. Do you have a plan? Sure.
Cyber insurance, would those companies that you referenced, the one that lost $625 million, would that cover them?
That's a great question. It depends upon the question is, would that cybersecurity cover those people? The person was an individual, not a business, that lost the $600,000, and there was no getting that money back.
Even if they had the insurance?
Well, they were an individual, so most individuals cannot get. Maybe now they're starting to do separate riders for individuals. Maybe if you have that type of wealth, you want to take a look at having some type of a business, and then having some assets go into that business, right, so that you could get business insurance for it. That's an insurance question and a legal question, and I don't know those. I've always said never call it a breach, a hack. It's an incident. But for whatever reason, there are special attorneys that are called breach attorneys. and they're called breach attorneys, not a cybersecurity incident attorney. It's a breach attorney.
What's the key, why is that a key word that you don't like?
So Tom's asked, why is this such a key word? I can just tell you that the word breach over time, because I used to use it all the time, and then I've been on some phone calls where I have told a customer, hey, listen, I consider this to be an incident. I'm not a forensic expert. I can tell you what has taken place, and I believe we need to call your cybersecurity insurance. Do you have cybersecurity insurance, Mr. Customer? I don't know, Lori. Well, you need to call your insurance company. You need to ask them. I don't know that question for you. You never got me that information. I've asked for it before. Please go ask. Lori, we don't have cybersecurity insurance. Okay. Do you have a cybersecurity attorney? No, breach attorney. And I said, and we need to stop emailing because I'm not privileged. So you don't call it a breach because you don't know what's occurred. You don't know what type of information was taken. A breach in terms of legal terminology means that data was taken and you want to determine what was taken, and if you can't determine what was taken, you basically have to, based upon the rules and regulations of the state that you live in and how big your company is and some other regulations, what do you need to report, how you need to report it, and what do you need to cover. So there's a lot of different red tape in there that an insurance and legal people need to answer, but we just always call it an incident or a notification because we don't know. I'm not a forensic expert. I need to refer this out to what's called an incident response team. And an incident response team starts at like $500 an hour. And you want to find out from your cybersecurity insurance if you have an incident, right? If they're going to pay you ahead of time, or you're going to have to pay out of pocket to that IR team, or if your insurance is going to pay for that. And who do you need to call first, and how are you going to communicate this to your customers? You want to have someone like me on your team that's helping you with this, that has gone through this, that has gone through tabletop exercises, that has walked people through this. I've had some people shaking on a phone call because their Facebook account was hacked. They're just so upset about this, or they're so upset because they allowed a threat actor onto their machine and they feel really dumb. I'm telling you, my customers are really smart people. They're smarter than me. And this stuff, when it's real and it's happening to you and you're losing money, you may not get it back. We had another customer that had clicked 2 different things in like 2 days. Clicked a link on her phone. They clicked a link because they were just at the bank. They clicked the link that came through. It was a generic bank link. It wasn't from the bank. She supplied her bank credentials because she was just at the bank, right? Just like the attorney this morning, she thought this really was her Dropbox. They're already having an incident. She then supplies something else in an email, and we changed usernames, again, reusing all passwords everywhere. So guess what that means? We are in there, and we have to go through everything that's saved somewhere and try to determine the most important credentials first and start changing this. This is like now. You have to change this all now. And you can't use your machine because we don't know if your machine is compromised. That person, we help them call their bank to say, hey, can you please just freeze my account? I don't know where this compromise is coming from. It's now 8 o'clock at night. I don't know where this compromise is coming from. They've already lost $10,000 out of their bank account. Can you freeze the account? No, was the answer. The bank couldn't freeze it over the phone, even the fraud department. Something with the type of account that it was. Next morning, right? We think we've changed everything, right? And again, I've said, we do not know where this threat is coming from. I don't know what is where. Don't know if we've covered all the bases. Next morning, $200,000, 6 a.m. was taken out of her bank account again. Again, this is not FDIC insurance. How many people think FDIC insurance is going to cover you because money was transferred out of your account? No, that's for like when the bank shuts down, like what happened in San Francisco, not for when you have a cybercrime. It's going to depend on your relationship with the bank, and they don't have to give you that money back. She did get her money back. And the reason why they couldn't, the bank said, was because they had a trust account, and that trust account couldn't have been frozen, or the account online couldn't be frozen, or something to that effect. I never really got the right answer I wanted, and
It's not the sole owner.
oh, it's not the sole owner. Oh, thank you, Bill.
Trust.
It's a trust. So, again, having those in place, knowing who to call first and knowing what to say. So I was just at a conference called Right of Boom. Right of Boom means you've just had an incident, assume breach, assume that some type of incident has occurred, and what are you going to do to recover? My goal is to make sure that every company or anyone that I know has the resiliency to come back if they've had some type of an incident. Again, incidents vary at level and severity, but when you let someone onto your computer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours, 6 hours, I've had people, you don't know what data you've lost. So again, the dark web, bad place, everything is for sale. Released in 2024, your data was exposed. Someone released 12 terabytes. Just know that's a ton of information. And there's 26 billion records of our information historically that's out there again for sale. So if it was part of something in the past, they've just released a whole other thing out there for sale for people to use against us. These people are businesses. They have like Google review, but it's not Google. It's like Bitcoin review, or hey, come buy from us. We have really good records that we've authenticated. Be very careful about Googling for information. If you know you're going to go to CNN.com, don't Google CNN News. Go to CNN.com. Go to Chase.com. Go to CraftFoods.com. Don't Google it and click a link. What's happening today, it's called SEO poisoning. This is another new word. SEO poisoning. Oh, I know, I just learned it myself. So I've seen it, I just never had a term to put with it. It's when people will search for Chase or a bank name or Norton. I mean, this is very common, but don't search for these things, because what comes up first is really not necessarily the company. It's a paid advertisement. And then people call these numbers. Oh yeah, I called HP today, Lori. Oh, did you really call HP? I don't know. You don't know. So I go on their machine, and guess what? They didn't call HP. And now they've let on there. Again, education, knowing where to find those fakes. Your computer has a virus. If it's talking to you, just turn off your computer. Call me. Look up a number online. Call somebody that you know and trust that's local. Don't Google a phone number, and don't Google the Geek Squad either, because so many times you're not going to get them either. You're going to get something else. Don't think you don't have anything. You do. Phishing prevention, just making sure that you're using, seriously, stop the madness of using same and similar passwords. I'm telling you, that will be your downfall in 2024 and beyond. Password recommendations, use at least 12 characters. Sparkle 1, exclamation mark is not a good idea. People always say, well, should I just use what they autofill with? No, I can't make out what those letters and numbers are, and sometimes you do have to retype them, and I just can't, I transpose all the weird characters. So I try to come up with a naming convention that is unique and different. Unique words, uppercase, lowercase, special character, number, special character, at least 12 characters. But Lori, I won't remember. You will never remember. Stop. Use a secured, configured properly password manager. Go through training on it. Does anyone remember or know who this guy is? Well, everybody knew who he was when this occurred. This was when the tsunami hit. Was this Hawaii? Or the alarms went off, I think, when they thought Pearl Harbor was being bombarded with a terrorist attack a couple years ago, or a nuclear bomb. Anyway, on his computer password, he took a picture with the news across the world, and it was his password on how to gain access to the system. Yeah, imagine coming to your office and someone seeing your password. To log into your computer system, to log in to access all of your customers' information. Oh, but Lori, I put it in my contact notes. Oh, great, that's even in a more unsecure place to save your passwords. Or I've put it into a spreadsheet or a Word document, but I've named it wedding plans. Did you know that I can search for the word password on your computer, or PW, and I will start to get all the documents, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever you have them saved in, that say the word password in it. Know that. Don't do that. Again, this layered approach, knowing about CVEs, other considerations, cybersecurity. Do you have a plan? Do you know if you would have an incident? There's just a lot of things. I know I totally overtalked. I'm so sorry. But again, my goal is to help you, your family, your coworkers, help defend our digital borders and really help protect our information as a company for yourself and for our nation. I mean, I really feel like it's us against them, and I feel that every piece of education, every nugget of information that you can take away from here and share with others is a win for our team and a win to help stop that spread of cybercrime reaching $10 trillion next year.
Can you give us an example of what a backup resistant ransomware is? Is it an external drive? Is it something else?
How do I know if my backup is resistant or resilient against a ransomware attack? Well, it depends on the type of data that you have. It depends on the type of device that you have. So I really can't give you a specific answer. It will tell you in the software. You just want to make sure it's configured. It depends on where your data is. Sometimes your data isn't on your machine. It's in a service. How many of you use QuickBooks Online for your business today? You may be using QuickBooks Online. Did you know that QuickBooks does not back up your data? If you make a mistake, if you don't have MFA turned on and someone goes in and deletes all of your information or locks you out of your account?
Well, there's an audit trail.
But there's not a backup. It's not a backup.
Right.
It's not a resilient backup. So knowing that you can back up your information, it depends on where that data is. If you have a free email account, there is no backup for that. So when we talk about backup, we need to know where is your data, what type of data do you have, and what type of device do you have, and what type of software are you using so that we could recover. So it's a personal question that I would love to answer for you on a private basis. I can definitely answer that for you in a little bit.
And Lori, I
Yeah.
was going to say, in the interest of time, because I know there were a couple
I know, sorry.
who had to leave. No, that's okay. You were showing us on our phones how our passwords are sitting there. Are you suggesting that we delete each one of those?
No, do not. No, passwords equal pain. Their passwords are very painful today. How many of you agree with that, right? It's very, very painful. It's a process going through your passwords. We help people export them. We get them into a list. We clean up that list. We then import it into a password manager. We get you a security score, and then we help guide you through how to change it. You may say, oh, I'll just change it here. Well, you're not changing it there. You have to log into each and every site to make this change. Yeah.
Clear. I was talking about when you took us to settings.
Yeah, I know. When you go to settings, if you start deleting them there, you may not know then what the password is, and so it's a process. No, I say leave it there because it's there. You have control over it, and you want to make sure that you know what it is so that you can change it if it's been a compromise. Because then people say, how often should I change my passwords? Only if you know that there's been a compromise. Every password I have is different. Mary?
When I went to settings and looked at password, it told me to change to a phone.
So it may have changed, and again, it may not be 100% accurate. There may be more that you just didn't save on your phone, but you have them saved someplace else on your computer, and maybe you're reusing the same password, or it's similar, right? It's Sparkle and Sparkle 1 and Sparkle 1 star. So if that word is there, you can never use that word again, ever. I don't care if it's your favorite child, your favorite pet. That name you just can't use anymore. You can go to a website called Have I Been Pawned? PWNED. Yeah, Have I Been Pawned? And you can put in your email. And it won't tell you the actual password, but it will tell you what sites your email address has been compromised on.
Lori, I just want us all to thank you, first of all, and then stick around.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I'm more than happy to answer questions. Again, I think knowledge is power. I think sharing is power. Did everybody find one useful piece of information? Oh, I do have scans, dark web scans for you. So some sites or some of the passwords that you're maybe seeing in here may have like letters and you're like, well, that's not my password. Well, sometimes on these sites that are selling your credentials, these credentials, encrypt the password that's for sale. So that's why you may not be able to see it. Sometimes I use this tool at the bars, Or when I'm at a dinner conversation with friends, and I'll be like, oh yeah, let me do a dark web scan for you. And I'll do a scan on their email, and then I tell them, I look at it, and I only see the first 4 letters, right? And I'm like, Spartacus, because it's like S-P-A-R-T, and their face turns white. They're like, but Lori, it's Spartacus 1, right? Okay, they use tools for this. They only need to figure out 1 character, and then, their face is white, and now they're like, okay, I gotta go now. So.
If you find a discrepancy like that on your credit card, if you're not going to call the number that's attached to the account, who do you call?
That's a great question. So the question is, I'm actually not getting an email. I actually have my Visa credit card statement that came to me in the mail that has a phone number associated with it for a charge I don't recognize. Well, 1, you can try calling that number. Don't let someone attach to your computer ever. That's number 2, right? And then 3, if you're not sure, you can call your credit card company and dispute it with them, and they can, determine who that is for you on your behalf.
Or you could go to the company, let's say it's Norton, you could go to Norton and look up the phone number there and call Norton.
Right. So yes, but I challenge you on that, because so many times people will go to Norton support and they'll click on the top ad that pops up instead of Norton, the true Norton website, and then they call the wrong phone number, and then a whole other different issue ensues. If it's on your statement, call that 1-800 number. If you're too scared to call that 1-800 number, call your credit card company. Don't Google your credit card company's phone number. Don't dial the phone number that you're questioning the email about. Call the known source that you have. Call that statement that you have that was mailed to you, that you have, that you physically have, that you know is real. Call that number that's on a business card or the number that's in your phone. The back of the credit card, exactly. Great question. Okay, next question. Hopefully I did not leave you with fear today. Hopefully I leave you with the resilience to know that you have the ability to fight against this. You have the knowledge in you. I mean, it's a fight that we're all here together. And so many times, so many people don't report it. Or when they call, they don't want to tell me really what happened. And I tell people, you need to tell me what really occurred. You need to let me know what you clicked on. If you gave them a password, did you allow them onto your machine? Another story, I get a call from a customer. Customer says, Lori, I left my computer. I know I shouldn't have let them onto my computer, but I did. And I say, okay, well, if they're on your computer, I'll connect to your computer. They're driving someplace. I connect, I see the threat actor software, again, legitimate software, I remove it. I restart the machine. Machine comes back up. And then I look in the history, and I see that that person's already been gone for 20 minutes. They called me in the car crying, and then I'm connecting to their machine, and I see that whoever was on their machine was actually logging in and out of their bank account already. They left the machine, and they were logging in and out of that bank account because the person's computer was already authenticated. Even if they had 2-factor, it was already authenticated. And the threat actors were just logging in, changing, wiring money, buying gift cards. It's really hard to trace. It's really hard to find who these people are. They're using compromised accounts when they get onto your computer. It's crazy. The stuff I see is crazy.
They're using Macs.
And people are using Macs, PCs. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what device you have today. It's social engineering at its greatest. This living off the land, that's like your new cocktail hour conversation. Have you ever heard of this? Let people know.
I totally agree. You got to tell her everything because she will find out. So if you say, yeah, it just happened, she's going to find out.
I can remember years ago, someone said, oh no, I did not pay them. I didn't do anything like that. Okay. Because if you did pay them, we need to give you a different protocol of what you need to follow, right? I'll still give you the protocols because I never trust what people tell me because they just may not know what I'm describing or they may not realize what occurred. But we pulled up an image and there was a picture of the check that the guy wrote and sent the picture via email to the threat actor that was on their machine. Well, guess now what that threat actor has? The routing number, the name, the signature, the account information. And then they can start just all sorts of stuff. Bad people are bad people. Yeah, so whatever email, right, and I can tell by looking at this, not for the first one, that was from the combo list, but the other ones, because they're like randomly generated numbers, letters, those were encrypted. So that's not actually their true password, but their true password that they used for House to log in is compromised. So if that password that they use at House is same and similar to passwords that they use at other sites, the threat actor already knows the email address, they know the company name, they know where you're located at that company. They can go onto the website, go to LinkedIn, find out who's who, and now start building some social engineering. I'm telling you, they're doing this. I'm not making this up. Like, it's bad stuff. I see another one here, CAST, C-A-S-T. So maybe a password was maybe castor oil, or I'm not asking, but I could tell that one was maybe more of a word.
Yes.
And again, the threat actors can see what that entire word is and the numbers that are associated with that. So if you reuse that main word in any one of your passwords, I'm telling you today, even if I didn't give you a report or there's only 2 passwords for somebody that have been compromised, stop reusing your same login and credentials. Everything needs to be different. Yeah, Bruce.
If a site requires you to have an email as a username, what are your options?
So when a site requires your username, which everybody does, right? Maybe have a different email account for your banking and financials. Maybe have a different one for each of those sites, right? I mean, it's getting to the point where you need to have some sophistication, again, depending on your money and the amount of money in places. You want to make sure that you're using multi-factor authentication. For banking and financial, you do not want to save your password. I don't have those saved because I don't want someone to potentially gain access to my computer and log in on an authenticated device and location. So I mean, logins are getting more sophisticated where, hey, the bank may not allow you to log in, or Google may not allow you to log in because you're trying to log in from Taiwan and you've never been in Taiwan before. So it notices that there's an anomaly there. But sometimes that is only configured if you have 2-factor setup. If you have your phone and information filled out properly. So many times I go into people's free email accounts that have been compromised, and we can't gain access because the phone number that they use is their landline phone, and guess what? No one has that landline phone anymore, so they can't get a phone call or a text message notification to that phone number because it's no longer valid, or they just don't have that phone number. Or they have an email address that they never verified that's in there, maybe this other email account, but they never verified it, so they can't get that notification. Joanna.
Are you suggesting then that we have a totally separate email address for anything financial?
No, I'm just really hoping that somebody will actually listen to me and have different passwords. Usually banking and financial do not use an email address, they use a username. Do not have anything associated with you in that username for your bank account and financial firm. I know someone that had heard me tell stories, and then they had seen what had happened to some of these people that had a threat actor onto their machine or had their emails compromised and money being stolen out of accounts. They went in one weekend and changed over 100 different usernames and passwords because they saw the devastation that can occur and how many hours it takes to restore the damage that's been done. And you have to, and sometimes you can't just stop it right away. It's awful. Joanna.
What does it mean when one of the emails that is at the top of our list here, having been accessed 1/30/24, doesn't exist?
It could just mean that the domain was found, but maybe there wasn't an email address associated with it. But you could have data. So sometimes I think on one of the reports for one of the companies, there was no passwords listed. Well, because they had over 1,000 in my assessment, so it only showed like the top 20, and it just means. But other PII data was taken. It knows your location. It knows your. Is there a PII score? 2. So it could just mean that They know your first name and last name, or a company name, or an address, a phone number, an email, a password. They know more information about.
So if it says DEALY@lflechamber.com, we've never had that address.
Could just be random information that was just compiled within that domain.
Is there anything I do?
And there's nothing you can do if you don't know that email. Yeah. Again, the information's on the dark web. These are not like, I mean, they're business people. They're very smart business people. They're making a lot of money. But it doesn't mean that all the data that they find is 100% matched.
Been created by someone else trying
Oh,
to
thank
steal
you.
credentials or open a false account to start new stuff in your name, open new credit, access other things.
So there's nothing.
But it's associated with your name and some
Right.
piece about you.
So in terms of there's nothing I can do about that. Well, we investigate it, right? We look at that. You go to the source, right? You go to your Microsoft tenant and you look at the various users that are in the tenant. Are you actually, when someone leaves your company, are you changing all the usernames and passwords that they had access to, that you share via email or that Word document or Excel spreadsheet? So now you just had someone leave. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they're going to be malicious, but they may have saved that username and password in their personal browser that they're logged into your work computer with, and now all of your passwords and usernames for that company are now being synced over to their personal machine at home that doesn't have virus malware protection. They have somebody in their house that's going into who knows what kind of websites. Porn. And now they're clicking on a link. You don't know their cyber hygiene, and now your username and password for company information has now been leaked to the dark web because it's stored in someone else's credentials on a machine that you don't even have access to or ownership of. I mean, this is great, and it's just like someone will say, well, I received an email. My friends are receiving emails from me, but it's not me. What can I do? Well, remember you had that incident like 10 years ago, and they took all of the contacts from your address book, and they're now just sending emails with your name because you're a known name to them, potentially. So now they're just going to continuously email your friends, hoping that your friends will click that link. Even though it's really not coming from your email, they've just stolen someone else's credentials and are using that. It just perpetuates. It's a hamster wheel like no other.
So what's a good strategy for coming up with 100 unique passwords?
So what's a strategy? I tell people, look around your room. Again, you can utilize the automated password generators that a lot of the sites use. You just have to understand how they work, and you have to verify it. My eyes can't handle it. So I look around the room. I see a white tablecloth. I see a brown square, right? It's a pillar, or a brown pillar. I come up with texture, fabric, words. I don't know what else. I see a black chair. So I come up with 2 words, put them together. I do special characters. I do numbers. And, it's a process when you have to go through and start changing everything.
Where do you store it?
I store it in a secured, configured password manager. And I make sure that my mobile device is configured properly. When we set up an account for an individual, one person, imagine, if this is like 17 people for a company, we do a training for the company. I had a company that couldn't afford it at first when we took them on as a customer, but they had a cyber incident. They had reused lots of passwords throughout their organization, throughout all of their users. And when they had an incident, we had to have a training, and they had to then they decided, okay, now this is really important because we just lost something significant here. Whatever that significant was, right? It was significant for them that they then bought the password manager. We have to configure everybody's personal device or maybe a work device, their mobile device, their computer. What kind of policy do you have in place if that employee leaves and those passwords are on that device? Can you go and can you legally, depending on your policy, take that password manager off? What's going to happen to the passwords that are there? You need to configure things on the different browsers. Like, what are they using? It takes a good hour for us to configure and to help educate you and the various, Lori, I use Edge. Well, Susie over here, she uses Chrome. Well, either as a company, we can enforce what you're going to use, right? But we work together with the company. But some people have a personal preference, and they may not have controls in place for me to dictate, okay, you're all going to use Chrome, you don't have a choice. And so it really depends for each company. But we use a password manager. We have it set up with security so that if you mistype your password more than 3 times, you can't get in. It's locked out for over an hour. We can increase that or decrease that. We make it so that if you create your master password, same or similar as anything inside, you're logged out immediately and you have to change it. So, I mean, it all depends on what you're using and how is it configured. I again, had a client using a password manager, but all their passwords were really stored in their browser and in their iPhone and in the password manager, and every password was really the same. And as we know, it's so it will autofill for you, right? So you don't have to remember it, or you can copy it and you can paste it. If you're in an organization, you can securely share a password without actually giving them the password. You can just share the access, but they won't see what the password is and they can log in. And again, just making sure that they're configured properly, making sure that it has MFA, making sure that if you're logging in onto a new device, an unknown, this is a new computer, you have to get another verification someplace else in order to log into that. But again, just having unique and different, and every password matters. Everyone matters. Again, I've had people's had their social media accounts compromised. Small businesses, right? They now have 3,000 followers on Instagram. You really can't get some of these accounts back. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. It just depends. And then they're asking for money, and they're spreading their thievery to other people that you know, and that's the worst part. All right, well, thank you, everybody. If you have other questions, feel free to call me, email me,